This is the collision of common sense and comedy. This is Defenders Live.
Hi, this is Eden Gordon Hill, and I am with Defenders Live. And today we have the honor to meet Colonel Peter Metzger, United States Marine Corps retired. Thank you, sir, for being here with us. We greatly appreciate your time.
Delighted to accept the invitation and chat with you, Eden.
Well, first and foremost, it was brought to my attention on June the 1st, an opinion article in the Washington Times with regards to it's time to call out our veteran charity scams. Please tell me more about this opinion article and why are there so many veteran charity scams?
Well, it's an interesting story and one that we're trying to get out through a very aggressive public information campaign. I guess what really caught our attention is our team took a look at a number of veterans charities in the year 2021 and found that, I want to say a number that's going to stagger you, nearly $1 billion, $966 million were given to charities that we would not recommend for various reasons, as opposed to 330 million, a third of that, being given to charities that purport to support veterans we would. So $1 billion was either misdirected by, from whatever reason, for, I'm not suggesting criminal activity, but fraud, waste, and abuse for good, well-meaning Americans trying to do the right thing to support veterans who need their help. And $1 billion went to the wrong places as we judge them.
So the $1 billion scam, we'll call it, is very concerning. With the work that I have done over the years with fighting for our veterans, making sure that they are given everything they need, having worked in the previous administration working for Trump, and we gave top care to our veterans. So I sit here and say, what is the RAM Veterans Group, i.e. the Charities for Veterans Initiative, going to do to basically point veterans in the right direction for the best care, for the best advantages, to take care of them because they did so much for us?
Well, the opportunity here is really simply, in simple mission terms, is to redirect hundreds of millions of dollars being given to low-rated veterans charities. That money should be directed towards the higher rated veterans charities who actually work very hard to support veterans and all their needs. So it's a redirection opportunity. And what we're trying to do is to educate the American public, who are wonderfully supportive of veterans organizations, to understand what really is going on in the organizations they write checks to. Because you and I both know that pictures and videos of wounded and injured military warriors are often used by charities to raise money. But much of that money is misdirected to places that the donor doesn't know. All we're trying to do is say, hey, here's a better way to look at it. Make your own choice.
And as you're educating the donor, let me ask you this. There are many veteran service organizations out there that I have supported over the years, to name a few: the USO, DC Metro, USO, New York City, the Liberty USO, Philadelphia, the Gary Sinise Foundation, the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. I've worked with all of them to advocate on veteran causes. So, and Hope for the Warriors is in my backyard here by Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Naming all of those amazing organizations, I don't want to specifically put you on the spot and say, okay, what ones should we be careful of? But educating the donor, especially when you come around Memorial Day, July 4th, and Veterans Day. Are you able to, with charitiesforvets.com, are you able to provide tools on your site that you can say, hey, America, hey, patriotic, holidays, here are organizations that we endorse? Or is there another method to educating?
Yeah, we have a rating system, and it's really pretty simple. As you say, Eden, if they go to the charitiesforvets.org website, they will see we rated 78 veterans charities, 30 of which we recommend and 48 of which we don't recommend.
Okay.
Your next question would be, why the difference? What's the rating system?
Right.
Well, there are a number of different things, and they're on the website, but a couple that are really important. We believe that if a veterans organization charity is spending more than 25% on overhead, that's probably not a good thing. Conversely, if they're spending less than 75% of the money donated directly supporting veterans, that's not good. You can see the imbalance there.
Right.
So we take a look very simply. It's all public information.
Okay.
We take a look at the IRS 990s and the various states' attorneys general reports, which all charities have to file, and we take a look at the numbers and we simply assign a grade. The grades are highly recommended, honorable, or not recommended.
Okay.
And none of these ratings are make-believe numbers. These are real hard facts as reported to the Internal Revenue Service. So it gives the donor the chance to go on the website and say, okay, I see why, and we explain why the rating is given to each of the charities. And so out of 78, you can see them all. So the end result being a successful mission would be to redirect those monies that are not going to places that are well managed to those that are. And so we're not telling anyone what to do whatsoever. It is suggesting, here's some information you may be interested before you make it write a check.
Right. Let me ask you this from a personal standpoint with RAM Foundation, which stands for the Robert Alexander Mercer Veterans Foundation and the new initiative Charities for Vets. And you are the chairman of the advisory board and a retired colonel in the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
What brought you to this organization, and what is your vision long term for this outreach and this education piece for veterans?
Well, the R.A. Mercer Veterans Organization was started by a woman called Rebecca Mercer, who's the niece of Robert Mercer, who was killed in action in France in 1944. And in his memory, and in the memory of all veterans and those fallen warriors, she started this foundation, and through a mutual friend, asked me to become involved. How can you say no to something like that? I mean, it's really a really good thing to do. And so Rebecca started this thing, and we're still in the early stages. We rolled it out around Memorial Day, as you know. And
Right.
my personal involvement is just a small piece of the success. And what do we see as success? We see success as perhaps encouraging those we don't recommend through poor financial management or for whatever reason to take a look at their internal controls and say, well, perhaps we can do this better. If they do it better and meet our standards by sending in audited financials, we take a second look. Nothing's forever.
Right. Right. With your service, with your family's service, you had mentioned to me pre-record that your son, the military service is a huge part of your family, and then also with the veteran space as well. And looking at what's ahead for our veterans, we have the pullout in Afghanistan. We have seen we've seen the PTSD, the TBI, just all the traumatic aspects of what happened in our nation within the past couple of years, and then going into Ukraine and what that is looking like. From that aspect of what could be long term for this foundation, what, as from the pinnacle, from the very top down, what do you say to those in our community, for example, 9,000 veterans in our community? Hey, check this out because this could actually benefit you down the road. What would you say to those veterans who are, one, searching for other opportunities, veterans who do not want to isolate themselves and want to get out and say, okay, let's volunteer here, let's get involved? What would you say to them?
Mm-hmm. Well, transitions are very difficult. Those of us who served, and I had the privilege to serve as a Marine for 26 years, transitions are difficult. And I would say to the veterans that these organizations we're trying to get lined up to support them have all kinds of networks to become involved, ways to get you to look for the profession you want to do, to get the health care you need, if necessary, some financial assistance. And so that really is the overarching mission even of our organization, is so the veteran can be educated, but more importantly, the people writing the checks who just are trying to do the right thing. They
Right,
really want to do the right thing.
right. I would say on a final note, as we head into the break, what are three things that we as veteran spouse, as we as Americans, and as we look to Veterans Day coming up and July 4th holidays,
Mhm.
what are three things that we can do to get involved with charitiesforvets.com that we can assist you as you start this, as you're in the beginning stages?
Great question. There are three things you can do. First and foremost, go to our website, charitiesforvets.org.
Mhm.
On the website, they'll find several ways to contribute either money or energy. One thing that's not well known about our organization is that a very small donation will yield multiple things. For example, a $100 donation to charitiesforvets.org will yield 3,000 media views. So it's geometric. The more information we get out there, the better. They can also sign up to become what's called a RAM warrior, kind of a cool term.
That
And
is.
for as little as $10, one can become a RAM warrior and become involved in information both ways. And for no cost whatsoever, on the website, they can become a RAM ambassador, which entitles them to free information pushed towards them through their email.
Let me ask you this with the Ram Warrior and looking over the press release that came out and also the Washington Times piece, it looks to me that the media aspect is very, um, more exposure to media will be such a benefit to
Yes.
charitiesforvets.com. So, in that, obviously, we would love to have you back to talk about follow-up and how things are going. But in addition to that, really just sharing your message out there, both in the social space and then also the national and local level. So we applaud you for getting out there and doing this and making a difference because every veteran in our backyard needs to know that they still matter and that they have access to availability for healing, health, and protecting our country as well.
Yes, they do. Thank you very much for that. It's an ongoing effort. We're in the very early stages, as you said. We're getting very positive feedback from various media outlets we've been talking to, both on television, radio, and in print. And
Mhm.
the more that people know about it, the better. This is a public information campaign. We're not making hard choices here for people. We're just simply saying, here are some facts. Take a look and do what you think is right. Because the American public is so wonderfully supportive of veterans. And in fact, you may know this, but only 1% of our country serves in the military. 1%.
Wow, that that speaks volumes. I did not realize that because
Pretty big.
that is because I mean, we sit here with 9,000 veterans in our backyard, and I'm sitting here thinking, wow, just 1%. Well,
Yeah.
Colonel Peter Metzger, United States Marine Corps, retired, charitiesforvets.com. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you're doing for our veterans.
Thank you very much. What a pleasure to be with you.
This is Defenders Live.
Hi, and welcome. This is Eden Borgenfeld, and I am with Defenders Live, and I have such an amazing honor and privilege to welcome a friend from Sarasota County, Florida. I am a lover of Florida, and I wanted to introduce you to Bridget Ziegler. She is a candidate for Sarasota County School Board. Bridget, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first and foremost, we have a lot in common. I was a candidate for the primaries here in North Carolina. You are a candidate for the primaries in Sarasota County, Florida. We also are two very powerful conservative women, and we also live in a red area. But I will tell you, being in the great state of North Carolina, I don't have the privilege to have an amazing freedom loving governor like you do.
We are
And
very blessed.
yes, you are. I'm not jealous or anything. But I wanted to talk with you a couple of things this morning. First and foremost, why Sarasota County School Board? Why are you running? And talk to me about everything that you've already accomplished, because I already know, but talk to our audience about everything that you've accomplished.
Well, thank you again for covering this. I may be biased, but I would challenge it all day long. Arguably, I think school board elections are the most important thing for the future of our communities, our country, our children. So I am the mother of three beautiful daughters between the ages of 3 and 8. I actually I work in the private sector with risk consulting and have been on the board. This is actually I'm running for a third term, which I never thought I would. I'm a very vocal conservative. I believe in individual liberties and limited government, and I understand the role as an elected official on a school board is to serve the public, to be an oversight board with the mission of high quality academic excellence. And that is the actual mission of an elected school board member.
Mhm.
And I started in 2014, jumped off a ledge, I have a strong faith, and I believe God opened a door, and I walked through it, and I'm glad I did. I'm incredibly passionate about this. But I had an 8-month old at the time. And so for any parent, you know that your whole life changes and how you look at the world as soon as you become a parent. You can't explain it to anyone who hasn't experienced that. And it is indeed the most wonderful blessing that we all can have as parents. And so we know, and I also knew government took a while to work. So education is key for the future of my children, but not just them, it's their generation and the future, as I said, of our community and our country. So I am on a board of 5. We live in a pretty conservative area in Sarasota County. However, like many boards across the country, and it's oftentimes because they are nonpartisan races that the public doesn't really have a good opportunity to really understand their political philosophies. So my board is a majority liberal board and has been for the end of time until August 23rd. But to me, it's just there's such a distraction, and we're seeing it worse and worse and particularly the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
I saw the antics that many parents across the country saw after COVID.
Right.
That
Right.
kind of disdain, that's been there for a really long time. What has gotten more aggressive is the social agendas that are incredibly alarming. And
Yes.
again, I go back to what is our job? What is our mission as a public education institution with diverse backgrounds, cultural, religious beliefs, etc.? We celebrate them, but we can't deny people those rights. And so, huge champion of parental rights, worked really hard in the state of Florida to pass that legislation. The first one, which is the Parents' Bill of Rights.
Right.
And so that's a lot about me. I mean, it could go on, but those are the key things. And I just believe
Sure.
that this is paramount, and we're at a pivotal time in our country's future.
Well, let's talk about the upcoming campaign. So, at the end of the day, you and I both know what it is to run a campaign, being women, conservatives, and being up against rhinos, Republicans in name only, being up the big media. And I know Sarasota media is not gracious to you guys whatsoever. And at the end of the day, we're looking at 2022 elections right around the corner. And in fact, who are we really putting in there? And I've worked with some of the powerful women in Loudoun County and Fairfax County back as they were fighting CRT last year. And also at the forefront, fighting CRT in our backyards, where there's a disconnect between the Board of Elections, the Board of Education, the local leaders, the state leaders, and then also there's the disconnect where you talk to parents. I door knocked 125 miles of this great area. The parents told me one thing, Board of Education, local officials said completely different.
Yep.
Disconnect is there, but the thing is, candidates like you, we need more of to fight the Republicans in name only, to fight the big media, to fight, do I dare say, the old boys club?
The establishment.
Exactly. So what has been your strategy, and where can we pull in support for you?
Well, there's so many good questions there. And I would say, and I use the word establishment because what I've found is that, particularly in this moment where parents of all political persuasions were aghast after the veil was lifted and what they saw during COVID. And then were met with the disdain with their public servants, which were anything but, they're self serving. They're not public servants, and at least the way they illustrate themselves. And so, my goal is that, listen, the media is not on our favor when it comes to being a conservative, and especially an outspoken one. They are terrified of the grassroots momentum that's happening right now. So they're doing everything in their power to belittle organizations or try to make them sound like extremist groups when they're actually true grassroots, hardworking moms and dads and concerned citizens. And we're doing it, and we're in the fight for our children's future. And that's it. And so that doesn't exclusively make it for Republicans or Democrats. I think that tent has changed in a completely different way. But the underlying aspect is the role of government. And I think that's the piece where people said, wait, I don't want the government making decisions for me about my children. And you see the aggressive, progressive agendas being pushed down using terms like birthing people.
Right.
I mean, so as a woman, as a mother, and it's a blessing, but that mama bear comes out in you, and it's true. And so I think that this is the opportunity that we have needed for decades. It's unfortunate it took a pandemic, but it woke us up, and it's high time because we are at a very critical tipping point. And so you asked a question, really, I think the way to win this is living room to living room, neighborhood to neighborhood. Stop relying on the clickbait. Certainly there's a way. I mean, you have to have targeted aspects when you're in a campaign, but you also need to go beyond those headlines and build those communities back up, because people do care. We just need to get past the rhetoric.
Yes, exactly. So let me ask you this. I'm hearing through the grapevine that the other candidates running for this seat aren't even parents or are retirees. Did I get that correct?
Yeah. So I look at this two different ways. So I'm a huge vocal supporter of parental rights. So my opponent, you could not get anyone more different than me and my philosophy, what I stand for, what my perspectives are. I don't know what her journey is, so I'm never going to attack anyone for that. But the perspective fact is that I have children, and I know that she does not. But and she's attacking me for things that are really illustrate that perspective isn't in her lion's eye, because she doesn't understand the weight of the decisions that we as parents across the entire country had to make. When it came to what the best learning environment was during COVID, based on some of these draconian policies that school boards were pushing forward. And, an 8-year-old rising first grader, that's a key developmental stage. But to attack me for the choice that my husband and I had to make, in a difficult one, just underscores it's more of the same of I know better, you don't, even though when it comes, we're talking about our own children. And I will always defend every parent's right to make those decisions and allow them to be informed, even if it's different than what I believe is right for my child, because that is what it's all about, ensuring parents are in the driver's seat.
Right. All right. Let me also talk to you. I noticed on your website, and it's bridgetziegler.com for our audience. Governor DeSantis did a great endorsement for you, along with an amazing tweet and things of that nature. Tell me how that transpired, and kind of give me a little background before even he was governor. It looks like you had some other work under the other governor at that time period. How did that all transpire?
It's interesting. My husband had been involved in politics, and so that part, I think, when it came down to my first run in 2014, I met with Governor Rick Scott at the time, and built a strong relationship with the local legislatures. I think it's so key to anyone who's looking at running for school board. So you need to understand the dynamics of the local school board and how the state legislature plays. Mostly it's all at the state level and the local level. And so building, solution-oriented partnerships was really my goal in order to really serve my community. That is kind of taboo because, again, we had a Republican-led legislature and still have the liberal majority board. They would just take every opportunity to, cast stones and very political. So I instead said, listen, I only have so much time here. I'm going to work hard for our families and for this community. And so over time, built strong relationships. And I think it was helpful to them because they had someone from the local level, not yelling at them, but actually working with them to better serve our community. And I think that just kind of grew from there. And when Governor DeSantis did this shout out, I was I was shocked and honored because I could not be more proud to live in Florida. He has been a just incredible leader. So many topics that a lot of elected officials would shy away from, he took on head on with gusto. And and he proved every single corporate media talking head wrong. And we need that leadership. That's what we need.
Yes, exactly. All right, let me ask you a couple of things from a parental standpoint. As you are out there canvassing from living room to living room, what are the top three things that you would encourage parents around the nation, from Maine all the way down to Florida and across to California, because so many of them are seeking freedom. And I always say the further south you get, the more free you become. And I'm at the very top of the South in North Carolina. Yes, we have Youngkin right above us, but we have an empty suit in our Raleigh state capitol. So as an advocate, I am not a mother, but I am a mentor. As an advocate for our next generation, who could be the greatest generation, is what I say.
Yeah.
What do we tell our parents who are seeking just to get by day to day?
Oh, and trust me, I get that. I always say, listen, if I wasn't on the school board, I probably wouldn't know what their names were. I'm lucky if I get my kids out of the door on time, dressed properly. I get that life. So I think parents just need to understand, and I know they're worried, and I get that, and it's almost hard to say, whether you don't need to put financial money in play, because yes, it helps candidates, but so does sweat equity and involving yourself, making phone calls, knocking on doors, sharing emails, just talking to people in the grocery store. But the biggest part is, in my mind, that we have an opportunity. And again, this goes across party lines. People are fed up with the exploitation of our children. I mean that very seriously. You have a captive audience, in impressionable minds. And we want and pay into a system that's supposed to be educating our children to be free thinkers, critical thinkers, and to have the foundational skills to be successful citizens. And instead, they're using that time to push political agendas that are toxic, that I know many people of all, again, political persuasions do not support. So I think you need to get out there, and I am always available. Like I said, you can find me on Facebook, or you message me here. You can go to my website at bridgetziegler.com, or find me on Twitter. I'm happy to help anyone across the state and the country in this space, because I've been doing it for a while. I haven't drank the Kool-Aid. I've stayed strong. I have skin like leather, and we need every single person to step up. Even if you're in a minority position, there's a lot of work that you can do that will help your community and help your students and children and the future of your community.
I have there below us, every child deserves access to a world-class education, and to graduate high school well prepared for success in college, trade school, the military, or the workforce. And I pulled that from your website. I thought that was very powerful. As you are pursuing the best for your children, for the next generation. And, at the end of the day, we have almost one of the greatest fights of our lives, being faith in the public square, keeping our nation one nation under God, and making sure that prayer is put back in the schools, making sure that God is still relevant. Because like you said at the very beginning, faith is so important to you on this journey. And we do have, at that moment, for such a time as this,
Yes,
we have that Esther moment.
I was reading Esther last night. Yes, exactly. I mean, it's true.
That's exactly it. So at the end of the day, we need to keep focused on that, reminded of that, encouraging the living room to living room conversations of that, encouraging the parents, the mentors, the grandparents, the moms, the dads, the single moms, the single fathers. Tell me this, as we are coming down to about a 5-minute mark, and I do not want to end this conversation, so we will definitely have you back to Defenders Live. How's the polls looking for you right now? And who are some of the biggest groups you have supporting you?
So I'm not a big poll person. I think someone's doing one. I haven't seen it. I feel the energy. Like I said, I got home last night at midnight. You wake up at 5 a.m, go through your list, do your calls. I mean, you've got to hustle. And I'm in it to win it, because I believe in this. I'm so passionate about it. My kids participate in it. But I think, to me, if it's great. I think what's so important is the headlines are in this aspect where they're really trying to, again, sensationalize and fearmonger. And that's always the way they're going to be. And why are they doing it? Because they want to maintain control and of our children and young impressionable minds. And so, again, I tell you that when you talk to people everywhere, neighborhood to neighborhood. Those, one, I think it just helps our community. We're so polarized now, and there's so many things that we actually agree with. And they all, once they realize what's actually happening, the truth, we can join together. So I feel really good. I think as long as people don't believe everything that they read in the corporate media, because they want to scare you into voting into the same that we've had for years and decades, and I will not stand for that. So
Right. Well, Bridget Ziegler for Sarasota County School Board, go to bridgetziegler.com. We would love to support you any way we can. We are so grateful to have the great state of Florida joining us on Defenders Live, and we look forward to having you back. Many blessings to you, and take back America.
absolutely, thank you so much.
Thank you.